Imagine a child of just 9 years old saying, with the conviction of someone who remembers a lived dream, that she once inhabited the legendary Atlantis, not as an invented story, but as memories of a previous life. She describes streets lit by crystals, gigantic temples, and a people proud of their wisdom. But the most terrifying part came later. The girl claims to remember the exact moment the sea advanced and swallowed the entire city in a matter of minutes. Her voice choked, her eyes filled with fear, as if she had truly witnessed the end of a world forgotten by history. It was a warm summer night in Miami. The sea breeze came through the window of Sarah's room. The 9-year-old girl was sleeping peacefully. Her brown hair was spread across the pillow. The sound of waves broke softly on the nearby beach. Suddenly, Sarah began to move. First, just a light movement, then more agitated. "No, the water is rising!" she screamed, still asleep. Her parents, Michael and Linda, woke up startled. They ran to their daughter's room. Sarah was sitting up in bed. Her eyes were wide. Sweat dripped down her small face. "Mum, the city is sinking," she cried. "Everyone is running." Linda hugged her daughter. She felt her heart beat faster. "It was just a nightmare, sweetie." "It wasn't a nightmare, Mom." Sarah looked into her eyes. "I was there. In my city of crystal." Michael frowned. "City of crystal? What city?" "Atlantis, Dad." Sarah's voice came out as a whisper. "My real home." The parents looked at each other. Sarah had never heard of Atlantis. They were sure. "Honey, where did you hear that word?" Linda asked slowly. "I didn't hear it, Mom. I remember." Sarah described towers that touched the sky, streets made of shiny stones, colorful fish swimming between the buildings. There were hanging gardens everywhere, she continued, and the water was blue like sapphire. Michael tried to rationalize. "You must have seen a movie at school." "Dad, I had another name there." Sarah lowered her voice. "They called me Nereia." The name came out of her mouth with a strange naturalness, as if she had always known who Nereia was. "And I had a different family," she went on. "My father was the guardian of the crystals." Linda felt a shiver run down her spine. The way Sarah spoke was different, more mature, more certain. "What crystals, honey?" "The crystals that gave energy to the whole city." Sarah closed her eyes. "They were in the center, in a very tall tower." "And how do you know that?" Michael asked. "Because I helped my father take care of them." Sarah opened her eyes again. This time, there was a deep sadness there, a sadness a 9-year-old child should not know. "But then came the terrible day," she murmured. "What day, honey?" "The day it all ended." Tears began to fall. "The day the sea swallowed us." Linda and Michael were silent. They didn't know what to say, how to explain that. Sarah lay down again. She pulled the blanket up to her chin. "Can I sleep with you tonight?" "Of course, sweetie." The three of them settled into the couple's bed. Sarah fell asleep quickly between her parents, but Michael and Linda stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about their daughter's words. "She never talked about Atlantis before," Linda whispered. "Or crystals," Michael replied softly. Outside, the sound of the sea continued, constant, hypnotic. And in the next room, Sarah's school journal was open on the desk. The last pages showed strange drawings, spiral-shaped towers, flying fish, and people wearing clothes that looked like they were made of scales. Drawings she had made weeks before the first nightmare. But what she said next gave everyone goosebumps. The next morning, Sarah woke up differently, calmer, as if the nightmare was just a distant memory. Linda was making coffee when she heard her daughter talking to herself in the room. "Dad, can you teach me about the crystals today?" Sarah was talking to someone invisible. Linda approached the door. She peeked through the keyhole. Sarah was sitting on the bed. She gestured as if talking to a real person. Her eyes shone in a strange way. "Yes, I remember the morning ritual," she continued. "First the purification, then the alignment." Linda's blood ran cold. "Ritual? Purification? Where did those words come from?" "Sarah, who are you talking to?" Linda entered the room. The girl stopped talking. She looked at her mother as if waking from a trance. "With my dad from Atlantis, Mom." The answer came out naturally. "He's teaching me about my job." "What job, honey?" "I take care of the smaller crystals, the ones in the houses." Sarah smiled. "It's very important. If they go out, people are left without light." Linda sat on the bed. Her heart was pounding in her chest. "Tell me more about this city, Sarah." The girl's eyes lit up, as if someone finally wanted to listen. "Atlantis is in the middle of the ocean, Mom, but it's not underwater. It's on a giant island." Sarah began to draw in the air with her hands, describing forms she saw clearly. "It has 3 circles of land, and between them canals of blue water." She paused. "In the center is the Golden Palace." "And where did you live?" "In the second circle, in a white stone house." Sarah closed her eyes. "From my window I could see the temple of Poseidon." Linda swallowed hard. Sarah had never studied Greek mythology. She didn't even know who Poseidon was. "Who is Poseidon, Sarah?" "The god of the seas, Mom. He protects our city." The answer came immediately. "That's why we've lived in peace for so long. During breakfast, Sarah continued to talk. She described rituals, festivals, strange foods. We ate fruits that grew underwater, she said, and fish that glowed in the dark. Michael tried to change the subject. How about we talk about school? Oh, school in Atlantis was different, Dad. Sarah didn't stop. We learned to talk to dolphins. Dolphins? They were our friends. They helped us fish. She paused, and they warned us when a storm was coming. Linda and Michael looked at each other again. Sarah's naturalness was disturbing. Sarah, are you sure you didn't see this somewhere? Linda insisted. I'm sure, Mom. I remember everything. Sarah stopped eating. I even remember my last day. Your last day? The day I died. Silence took over the kitchen. Only the sound of the ceiling fan and the distant sound of the waves. How did you die, honey? Michael asked carefully. Sarah closed her eyes. Her breathing became heavier. The ground started to shake. Early in the morning, her voice got lower. I was at the temple with my dad. And then the crystals started to crack. One by one, she opened her eyes. My dad was desperate. Sarah got up from the table. She started pacing back and forth. He said something was wrong, very wrong. She stopped. The gods were angry. Angry about what? About the people of Atlantis. They had become greedy. Sarah shook her head. They wanted to conquer other lands. Linda felt a shiver. How could a 9-year-old child know about greed and conquests? Go on, Sarah. The sea started to rise, slowly at first. She looked out the window, then faster. And you? I ran home. I wanted to find my mum. Tears began to appear, but the water got there first. Sarah hugged herself, trembling as if she were cold. The wave was gigantic, Mum, taller than the buildings. She looked at Linda, and it made a terrible noise. What noise? Like the earth was screaming. At that moment, the phone rang. Michael answered quickly. He wanted to break the heavy atmosphere. Hello? Oh, hi, Mrs. Helen. Linda saw her husband's face change. He became more serious. Yes, she's fine. What do you mean, strange drawings? Sarah stopped talking. She paid attention to the conversation. Today? This morning? Michael looked at his daughter. Okay, thanks for calling. He hung up the phone. He took a deep breath. Her teacher said Sarah made very detailed drawings at school today. Michael paused. Drawings of a city sinking. Linda felt her stomach clench. And she used words the other kids don't know, he continued. What words? Orichalcum, trident, liquid amber. Sarah just smiled, as if it were natural to know those terms. They're things from Atlantis, Dad. She went back to eating normally. Everyone there knew those words. Michael sat down slowly, trying to process everything. Sarah, can you draw Atlantis for us? I can. She finished her juice. But you're going to be scared. Why? Because you'll see how real it was. That afternoon, Sarah took out pencils and paper. She began to draw with impressive precision. Spiral towers, concentric canals, temples with gigantic columns, and in the center of everything an immense crystal, shining like a sun. This was the heart of Atlantis, she explained. It gave energy to everything. Linda watched every stroke, every detail. Everything seemed too professional for a child. Sarah, how do you know how to draw like that? Nereia knew how to draw, Mom. Sarah didn't take her eyes off the paper. She was an artist. Nereia? Me. In my past life. Linda felt her legs go weak. She had to sit down. The drawing was almost ready. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Done. Sarah showed the paper. This was my home. Michael took the drawing. He studied every detail. It was impossible for a child to create something so elaborate. Sarah, are you sure you never saw this anywhere? I'm sure, Dad. It's all in my head. She tapped her forehead lightly. Sometimes it's hard to separate the two lives. Two lives? The one now and the one before. Sarah put away the pencils, but the one before is getting stronger. Linda and Michael looked at each other once more. The fear was growing. What do you mean, stronger? I remember more things every day, Sarah smiled. Yesterday I remembered the name of my Atlantean mother. What was it? Thalassa. The name came out with a different accent. She had golden hair like seaweed. Michael swallowed hard. Thalassa was an ancient Greek word for sea. How did Sarah know that? And there's one more thing, Sarah said softly. What? I know where Atlantis is buried. The wall clock read 3 in the afternoon, but the silence in the house seemed eternal. How do you know where it is? Linda asked, trembling. Sarah looked out the window, to the sea stretching to the horizon, because sometimes when I'm sleeping, she paused, I can still smell it, and that detail changed everything. Michael couldn't sleep that night. He researched online until dawn. Atlantis, Plato, Orichalcum, every word Sarah had said. Linda found her husband in the kitchen at 6 in the morning. He was pale, with deep, dark circles under his eyes. Did you find anything? She asked softly. I found out our daughter knows impossible things. Michael showed her the computer. Look at this. On the screen were images of Atlantis, according to Plato. The descriptions were identical to Sarah's drawings. The 3 concentric circles, the temple of Poseidon in the the center. Michael pointed to every detail. She got everything right. Linda sat down slowly. But that's impossible. And there's more. Michael changed the page. Orichalcum was a sacred metal of Atlantis. Plato wrote about it more than 2,000 years ago. Sarah can't have read Plato. Exactly. Michael closed the laptop. So how does she know? At that moment, Sarah came down the stairs, still in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Good morning, Mum. Good morning, Dad. She seemed like a normal child, none of the strange maturity from the day before. Did you sleep well, honey? Linda asked. I did. Sarah sat down at the table. I dreamed about the Festival of the Tides. Michael and Linda immediately tensed up. What festival is that? It was a party we had every year in Atlantis, Sarah said. She picked up a glass of milk. To thank Poseidon for his protection. What was the party like? Everyone wore blue clothes. And pearl necklaces, Sarah smiled. The priest sang ancient hymns. Do you remember the hymns? I remember some. Sarah began to hum. The sound that came from her mouth didn't sound like English or any known language. It was melodic, strange, ancient. Linda felt the hair on her arms stand up. Sarah, what language is that? It's Atlantean, Mom. The answer came naturally. The language we spoke there. Michael got up abruptly. Linda, I need to talk to you in private. They went out to the backyard. They left Sarah finishing her breakfast. This is getting too serious, Michael said nervously. I know, I'm scared. Maybe we should see a psychologist. Linda nodded. Or a doctor. It could be a neurological problem. I'll call Dr. Miller today. They went back inside. Sarah had finished eating. She was drawing again. What are you doing, honey? Drawing the map of Atlantis. She didn't take her eyes off the paper. So you can understand better. The drawing showed a circular island with mountains around it, canals of water cutting through the land. This mountain here is called Mount Poseidon, Sarah explained, and this bay is where the ships arrived. Where did the ships come from? From Egypt? From Greece? From distant places? Sarah added more details. We traded with everyone. Traded what? Orichalcum, energy crystals, luminous fish. Sarah paused. And knowledge. Knowledge? We knew things that other peoples didn't know. She looked at her parents. Like how to cure diseases, how to make it rain, how to talk to animals. Linda felt dizzy. Sarah, stop for a bit. Okay, Mom. Sarah put away the pencils. Can I go play in the backyard? You can. Sarah ran outside, like a normal 9-year-old child. Linda sat at the table. She looked at the drawings scattered around. Michael, this isn't normal. I know. He picked up one of the papers. Look at this level of detail. In the drawing, Sarah had included small symbols. They looked like hieroglyphs, but they were different from the Egyptian ones. What about these symbols? I don't know. Michael shook his head. I've never seen anything like it. The phone rang. Linda answered quickly. Hello? Linda? This is Helen, Sarah's teacher. Hi, Helen. Is everything okay? Linda, I need to talk to you both urgently. The teacher's voice was different. About Sarah's drawings. We already know, Michael told me. It's not just that. Helen paused. Today she wrote something that disturbed me. What? An essay about her previous life, with details a child shouldn't know. Linda felt the floor disappear from under her feet. She wrote about wars, about political betrayals, about the end of a civilization. Helen continued, with a terrifying maturity. Can we set up a meeting? Of course. How about this afternoon? Perfect. Linda hung up the phone. Michael waited anxiously. The teacher wants to see us today. Because of the drawings? Because of an essay Sarah wrote. At that moment, Sarah came back from the backyard. She was carrying flowers in her hands. Mom, these flowers grow in Atlantis too. She showed the petals. But there they are blue. They're daisies, honey. They've always been white. Here they are. Sarah smelled the flowers. But in Atlantis, everything is more colorful. She went to her room, leaving her parents alone in the kitchen. Linda, I'm starting to believe that... Michael stopped mid-sentence. That what? That maybe she really remembers something. Linda looked at her husband. Are you talking about reincarnation? I don't know. I just know this isn't a child's imagination. That afternoon, they went to the school. Teacher Helen greeted them with a worried look on her face. Read this. She handed them Sarah's essay. The title was written in neat handwriting. My previous life in Atlantis. Linda began to read aloud. I was Nereia, daughter of the guardian of the crystals. I lived in a wonderful city in the middle of the ocean, but our people became proud and greedy. We wanted to conquer lands that weren't ours. The gods became angry. They sent earthquakes and giant waves. I was in the temple when it all began. I saw my father trying to save the sacred crystals, but it was too late. The waters swallowed us, and Atlantis sank forever. Michael finished reading in silence. His hands were trembling. Teacher, can a 9-year-old child write this? Impossible. Helen shook her head. The vocabulary, the structure, the emotional depth. And there's more, she continued. Sarah drew a map of the school today, but she called it the Temple of Knowledge. She showed them another paper. The drawing of the school was perfect, but with different names for each room. Room of Minor Crystals, Garden of Sacred Waters, Portal of the Winds. Linda read each name. What does this mean? I asked her. Sarah said these were the rooms of the temple where she studied in Atlantis. The teacher paused. She looked at the 3 drawings on the table. There's something else I need to tell you. What? Sarah said a phrase in another language today to a classmate. What phrase? The classmate was crying. Sarah approached and said something like, Thalas sa merinde cardion. Michael and Linda looked at each other scared. When I asked what it meant, Sarah said it was the sea calms the heart in Atlantean. Helen leaned forward. I researched it later. Thalassa is sea in ancient Greek, and cardion is heart. How does a 9-year-old child know ancient Greek? Exactly, Helen sighed. That's why I called you here. Outside the room, the noise of children playing, laughter, normal conversations, but inside, the silence was heavy, full of unanswered questions. Teacher, what should we do? Honestly, I don't know. Helen gathered the papers. I've never seen anything like this in 20 years of teaching. Linda looked out the window. She saw Sarah playing in the yard, running with other children. She seemed so normal, so innocent. There's something that bothers me, Michael said thoughtfully. What? Sarah said the memories are getting stronger every day. Helen frowned. What could that mean? I don't know, but I'm afraid to find out. At that moment, Sarah appeared at the classroom door, smiling. Mom, can we go home? I'm tired. Of course, honey. On the way back, Sarah was silent, looking out the car window. What are you thinking about? Linda asked. About Thalassa, my mom from Atlantis. Sarah sighed. I miss her. Miss her? Yes, I miss her. Sarah turned to her mother. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I can even smell her hair. Linda swallowed a sob. She didn't know whether to be moved or scared. What did it smell like? Seaweed and lotus flowers. Michael stopped the car at home. Everyone got out in silence. At the entrance, Sarah stopped. She looked at the sea in the distance. Mom, can I ask you a question? Of course. If I tell you where Atlantis is sunk, will you believe me? Linda felt her heart race. Where is it, Sarah? Sarah pointed to the horizon. There, 300 miles off the coast. How do you know the distance? Because I dream about the way back every night. She went inside, leaving her parents outside. Michael and Linda stood looking at the sea, at the same horizon Sarah had pointed to. Linda, what if she's right? About what? About everything. The wind brought the salty smell of the ocean, and for a moment, Linda swore she smelled something else. A sweet perfume, like seaweed and lotus flowers. But that was just the beginning. News about Sarah spread quickly through the school. In 3 days, all the parents knew about the girl who remembers Atlantis. The reactions were varied, and none of them good. That's a demonic thing, said Mrs. Davis, the mother of a classmate. A child shouldn't say such things. It's too much fantasy, another parent commented. The parents should see a psychiatrist. Linda heard the comments at the school gate. Every word was like a knife. Mom, why is everyone looking at me strangely? Sarah asked on the way home. Here's just curiosity, honey. But they don't look curious, they look scared. Sarah was right. Fear had spread like a virus. At school, some mothers asked to move their children to a different class. I don't want my son near that girl, one of them said openly. Teacher Helen tried to defend Sarah, but the pressure was increasing. She's disturbing the other children, the principal complained, telling stories about death and sunken cities. They're just memories, Helen argued. Memories of what? The girl is 9 years old. The principal slammed her hand on the table. This is a psychological problem. That week, Michael and Linda took Sarah to Dr. Miller, the family's trusted pediatrician. Let's run some tests, he said calmly, to rule out any physical problems. Doctor, what could cause this? Linda asked. There are several possibilities. Dr. Miller adjusted his glasses. From brain tumors to childhood schizophrenia. Michael's blood ran cold. Schizophrenia? It's rare in children, but possible. The doctor made notes. Hallucinations can seem very real. Sarah was sitting quietly on the examination table, swinging her little legs. Sarah, can you tell the doctor about Atlantis? Linda asked. I can. Sarah looked at Dr. Miller, but you won't believe me. Why not? Because adults have lost the ability to remember their past lives. Sarah spoke with seriousness. You have blocked your memories. Dr. Miller frowned. And why didn't you block them? Because I died very young in the previous life at 10 years old. Sarah shook her head. When we die as children, the memories get stronger. The doctor noted everything. His expression was one of growing concern. Sarah, do these memories harm you? No, they make me feel good. She smiled. I like to remember Nereia. Why? Because she was happy. Before Atlantis sank, Dr. Miller ordered blood tests, an MRI, an electroencephalogram. We'll investigate everything, he assured them, but I can already tell you that Sarah's behavior is very unusual. A week later, all the tests came back normal. Perfect brain, blood, without any changes. Physically, Sarah is healthy, Dr. Miller explained. There are no signs of a tumor or lesions. So what could it be? Michael insisted. Psychologically, she presents interesting characteristics. The doctor consulted his notes. Above average intelligence, exceptional creativity, photographic memory. But the stories of Atlantis, they could be the result of a very vivid imagination. He paused. Or something we don't fully understand yet. Meanwhile, Michael had sought out Father John, the parish priest of the family's church. This is not of God, the priest said categorically. Reincarnation contradicts our faith. But Father, what if it's real? It can't be real, Michael. Father John got agitated. This is the influence of deceiving spirits. What should we do? Bring the girl for a prayer session to cast out these negative influences. Michael left the church more confused than before and afraid to tell Linda everything. At home, Sarah continued to have her Atlantean moments, always at the same times. Early in the morning, she talked to invisible people. In the afternoon, she drew detailed maps. At night, she hummed in the Atlantean language. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Sarah said during dinner. "Of course. Why are you so afraid of me?" Linda almost choked on her food. "We're not afraid, honey." "Yes, you are." Sarah looked down. "I can feel it." "Feel how?" "The same way I felt when the people of Atlantis got nervous." She looked at her parents. "The air gets heavy. It's hard to breathe." Michael put his hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Sarah, we love you. We're just worried." "Worried about what?" "About these memories. They're very intense." Sarah smiled sadly. "Dad, I didn't choose to remember. They came on their own. We know that, and I can't make them stop." She played with the food on her plate. "Every day, I become more like Nereia." Linda felt a tightness in her chest. "What do you mean?" "Nereia liked things that Sarah didn't like before," the girl explained slowly, "like raw fish and sad songs. Do you like those things now?" "I do, and I also like being near the sea." Sarah looked out the window. "When I'm at the beach, I feel like I'm home." After dinner, Linda called her sister Clara. She needed to vent to someone. "Clara, I don't know what to do anymore." "Linda, maybe you're exaggerating. A child has a fertile imagination." "This goes beyond imagination." Linda told her about the drawings, about the strange language, about the impossible knowledge. "Have you thought about moving to another city?" Giving her a new perspective. "We have, but Sarah said something scary the other day." "What?" "That it's no use running away, because the memories will come with her." Clara was silent on the other end of the line. "Linda, can I suggest something?" "Of course. How about you look for someone who understands this? A researcher, an anthropologist, I don't know." "Researcher of what?" "Of reincarnation, of past lives." Clara paused. "If it's real, there are people who study this." The next morning, Michael searched online. He found the name of Dr. James Thompson, a psychiatrist specializing in unusual cases. He practices in Boston, Michael showed Linda, and he has articles about past life memories in children, cases like Sarah's. Apparently so. They scheduled an appointment for the following week, but they didn't tell Sarah. During those waiting days, Sarah became even more introspective. She spent hours at the beach, alone, talking to the sea. "Who are you talking to at the beach?" Linda asked one afternoon. "With Thalassa, my mom from Atlantis." Sarah answered naturally. "She visits me sometimes." "Visits how?" "In the wind, in the sound of the waves." Sarah smiled. "She says she's proud of me." "Proud for what?" "For not having forgotten her, for keeping the memories alive." Linda felt her eyes well up. She didn't know if it was from emotion or fear. "Sarah, do you miss your previous life?" The girl thought for a few seconds. "I miss some things. My Atlantean dad, the beautiful city." She paused. "But I like this life too." "You do?" "I like you guys. Having a family that loves me." Sarah hugged her mom. "Even when you're scared, you take care of me. We'll always take care of you." "I know." Sarah pulled away from the hug. "But there's something I need to tell you." "What?" "The memories are coming to an end." Linda felt her heart race. "What do you mean?" "I've already remembered almost everything from Nereia's life," Sarah explained calmly. "I just have the end left." "What end?" "The exact moment I died in Atlantis." Sarah's voice became more serious, more mature. "And when I remember that, I'll be able to choose." "Choose what?" "If I want to continue being Sarah," she paused, "or if I want to go back to Atlantis forever." Linda felt the world spin. Her legs went weak. "Go back how, Sarah?" "In the sea." "With Thalassa." The girl looked at the horizon, where Nereia always wanted to be. Michael arrived from work at that moment. He found Linda crying on the couch. "What happened?" Linda told him everything, between sobs and tears. "Michael, she's talking about dying, about leaving. That's impossible. She's 9 years old. But she doesn't act like a 9-year-old child." Michael sat down next to his wife. He hugged her tightly. "Linda, let's go to Boston tomorrow. We can't wait any longer. What if the doctor doesn't believe us? At least we tried. That night, Sarah came into her parents' room. She was wearing a white nightshirt. She looked ethereal under the moonlight. Can I sleep with you? It's my last night as just Sarah. Linda and Michael looked at each other, terrified. What do you mean by that? Tomorrow I'm going to remember the end. Sarah lay down between them. And then I'll know who I really am. She fell asleep quickly, but Linda and Michael stayed awake, watching their daughter's breathing. At 3 in the morning, Sarah started talking in her sleep. The water is rising, Mom. I need to save the crystals. Dad, where are you? Her voice was different, with a strange accent, older. Thalassa, Thalassa, save me, Sarah screamed in her sleep. She woke up, gasping for air, sweaty. Mom, I remembered. She looked at Linda with tears in her eyes. I remembered what it was like. What was it like? My death in Atlantis. Sarah sat up in bed, breathing deeply. I was running to the temple to save the smaller crystals. She spoke slowly, but the wave got there first. And then the water carried me away to the very bottom. Sarah closed her eyes. But before I died, I made a promise. What promise? That I would return one day to tell the story of Atlantis. She opened her eyes. She stared at her parents. And now I've returned through Sarah. Linda felt her blood freeze in her veins. The way Sarah spoke was completely different. Who is talking now? Michael asked, trembling. Nereia, the real one. The voice was firm. Sarah was just my way back. Sarah, stop this. Linda shook her daughter. You're scaring me. The girl blinked a few times as if waking from a trance. I'm sorry, Mom. Sarah's normal voice returned. The memories, they get confused sometimes. Are you okay? I think so. But her eyes were still filled with a sadness that went beyond her years. They went to Boston the next day. They met with Dr. James Thompson. He listened to the story without interruption. He didn't seem surprised, just attentive. He analyzed the drawings. He listened to Sarah hum the Atlantean hymn. He asked her a few questions. Sarah, do you know what a triton is? Yes, she answered immediately. A sea creature, half man, half fish. And what about the Pillars of Hercules? They mark the entrance to the Atlantic Ocean from the Mediterranean Sea, she said. They were our gate to the world. Dr. Thompson wrote everything down. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, this isn't a psychological issue, he said calmly. Michael and Linda held their breath. So what is it? It's what we call past life memories in children. He explained that these cases are rare, but they happen all over the world. The memories usually fade as the child grows. And what about what she said yesterday? Linda asked, trembling. That she has to choose? Dr. Thompson took off his glasses. This is the most sensitive part. The memory of the death can be very strong. It can cause a temporary identity crisis. So she's not going to go back to Atlantis? Michael asked. No, but she needs to be helped to integrate both personalities. How? By validating her memories and gently bringing her back to her current life. He handed them a book. I wrote this for a case just like hers. They left Dr. Thompson's office feeling a little more at peace. They decided to follow the doctor's instructions. At home, they talked to Sarah about Atlantis. They listened to her stories. They even helped her organize a small box of Atlantean memories with her drawings, her strange songs, and her writings. The memories began to fade. The Atlantean moments became less frequent until they stopped completely. Sarah returned to being just Sarah, a happy, normal 9-year-old child. The story of the girl who remembers Atlantis became a legend in the school, and then a few years later, a book, with Michael and Linda's permission. Dr. Thompson published a book about Sarah's case. The book was a success, and the story of Nereia and Atlantis became known. It was taught in schools around the world, an advanced civilization that self-destructed due to immeasurable ambition, the textbook summarized. Sarah grew up knowing that she had been part of something extraordinary, but she never boasted about it. I was just the way, she said when they asked. The message was from Nereia for all of humanity. One night, at 18 years old, Sarah was at the beach where it all began, the same place where she had her first nightmare about Atlantis. A gentle breeze blew from the sea, and for a very brief moment she heard it again. Thank you, Sarah, for everything. It was Nereia's voice, distant, peaceful, finally at rest. You're welcome, Nereia. Thank you for choosing me. Sarah smiled at the waves. She knew that would be the last time. Nereia had gone on her way to wherever ancient souls go when they fulfill their missions, and Sarah could finally live her own life, complete, full, free, but always carrying within her the lessons of a lost civilization and the responsibility of a world that needed to learn from the mistakes of the past. The sea continued to sing its eternal song, but now it was just music, no longer the echo of a city that had once touched the stars and then sank into the depths of its own ambition. The story of Sarah and Nereia had come to an end, but the story of humanity had just begun.